Hello and welcome to a video tutorial hosted by cheapvectorstock.com. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you the easiest and fastest way to make your own platform style video game. And this is something that anybody can do, so let's get right to it. The first thing we're going to want to do is get graphics for our video game. So if you go to cheapvectorstock.com, we've just uploaded 7 graphics that we will be using in our video game. Each graphic is $1, and by the time you view this tutorial, we'll have another page called bundles or something similar, where I will bundle all 7 graphics for just $5. After you have downloaded all of the graphics for our platform game from cheapvectorstock.com, you'll want to go to www.skira.com/Construct2. And Construct2 is a 2D game engine. There is a free version of this, and that's what we'll be using. This is the Construct2 game engine right here. Let me show you guys exactly what we will be making for this video tutorial, and then in future video tutorials we will expand on this game. So this is our game running in our web browser. By the end of this tutorial, you will have something similar to this. You can see right now our character is just a yellow square, but we will be changing this in future video tutorials. The art assets, however, are from cheapvectorstock.com, and this currently plays as a typical platform game would. You can move your character, jump, interact with the world, and if you fall off the map here, you simply respawn. In future video tutorials, we will introduce new game mechanics, including health. But let me take this opportunity to say that if you would like to see future video tutorials, please do show your support by liking this video, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and sharing this video with your friends and family. Your support definitely goes a long way in ensuring that I can continue making these video tutorials, so thank you all very much for that. Alright, so let's make our platform game. With Construct2 open, go to File, New. We're going to go to New Empty Project, Open. On the left hand side, you're going to see a Properties panel with several fields. I'm not going to go through all of these, just the important ones. So name, obviously you can tailor it to your own project, but mine is going to be Cheap Vector Stock Platform Game. My version is just going to be 1. Author would be Cheap Vector Stock. My email, website would be cheapvectorstock.com for me. First layout, this is going to be what you first see when you hit play over here. So we're going to do layout 1. The window size is going to be 640 pixels by 480 pixels. You can also expand this, so the 640 is the width, 480 is the height. The rest of these we're going to keep the same. Make sure it is on letterbox scale here. Also preview browser, you want to switch that to Chrome as it's the most stable for Construct2. So that covers the properties panel here for our game. We want to click on layout 1 here, and we can rename this. I'm going to name it stage 1, and we want to change the layout size. So I'm going to do 1250, which is the width, by 480, which is the same as the window size. So you can see our layout has changed here. And now we're going to save this before we continue. So save. Alright, so I just saved my game. The next thing I'm going to do is go to this layer panel here, and I'm going to rename layer 0 to background. I'm going to click on this plus here to add another layer, and I'm going to rename this platform. Now we're ready to add the graphics to our project, so let's start with the background. Under layers, make sure that the background is selected, then double click anywhere on your layout. A new window will open. You just want to click on Sprite and Insert. Click anywhere, and a new window will open again. So here we want to click on Load an Image from File. So these are all the graphics that we downloaded from cheapvectorstock.com. Just double click on Backgrounds 1. We have 3 different backgrounds here, and we just want to isolate each of these. So under the animation frames, you just want to duplicate this twice. And for frame 0, we're just going to delete the second and the third backgrounds. For frame 1, we're just going to delete the first and the third. And for frame 2, we're just going to delete the first and the second. So now we have each of these backgrounds isolated, but there's also a lot of empty space. To fix this, we're just going to hold Shift on our keyboard and click on Crop Transparent Edges. Okay, now that that's all set, we're going to set the origin point by going right here. For each of these images, we're going to set it to 0 for the X and 0 for the Y. So under the Image Points panel, just right click and do Apply to Whole Animation. The final thing you want to do here is under the Animations panel, set the speed to 0 and make sure that the loop is set to no. So we're all set with the background. Just going to drag this over, set the position here to 0, 0, and then we're just going to hold Shift and click and drag out until we fill our layout. Because we placed our 3 backgrounds in separate frames, we can easily switch between them. So I'm just going to click on this sprite, and under Properties, I'm going to switch the initial frame to 2. And this gives us our mountain background. I'm also going to name our sprite background. And it's a good idea to name your sprites, as it makes things less confusing later on when you have, say, 500 sprites in your objects panel. Finally, we're going to lock the background layer. And this is so if I am placing my platforms down on my layout, I don't accidentally run the risk of clicking on my background and moving it. Now we're going to add platform graphics to our project. So make sure under Layers, Platform is selected, double click on your layout, and double click on Sprite. Click anywhere, and we're going to open Platforms Part 1. Make sure that the rectangle select is highlighted, and you want to get rid of these 2 platforms as well as this platform right here. Then we're just going to click on Crop Transparent Edges. Under Animation Frames, we're going to duplicate twice, and we're going to get rid of the second 2 for frame 0, the first and the third for frame 1, and the first 2 for frame 2. While holding Shift, we're going to click on Crop Transparent Edges again. I'm actually going to zoom in by holding Control and Alt. And I'm actually going to move this down and to the left, just so when we're placing these platforms, there's no space between them. Do the same thing for frame 1, down and to the left, and the same thing for frame 2, down and to the left. Okay. It's perfect. We're going to set the origin point somewhere in the center right here. Right click and apply to whole animation, and then we're going to do set collision polygon. Right click, set the bounding box, and then we're going to click here. The point will turn yellow. Click here while holding Shift, and then you're going to use your arrow key to move these points down. I moved them down about 2 pixels from the top of the graphic. Then we're going to right click, apply to whole animation. Okay, looks good. Under the Animations panel, make sure that the speed is set to 0 and the loop is set to no. And we're just going to rename this to platform underscore grass. And we're all set with this now. So I'm just going to save really quickly. Next, we're going to duplicate several of these sprites to create the stage for our game. The first thing I'm going to want to do is zoom into our layout. So I'm going to hold Control, Alt, and scroll my mouse wheel up. Next, I'm going to hold Spacebar to pan, and click and drag this to the corner. And you can fine-tune this with the arrow keys. Okay, to duplicate this, we're just going to hold Control while this is selected and Shift to move it in a straight line. And again, you can fine-tune with the arrow key. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to repeat this process several times until our stage is complete. Having zoomed in, I do notice there's a bit of a white space here. So I'm just going to unlock my background layer, click on my background, and while holding Shift, I'm going to press the left arrow key once. Going to lock my background again and pause the video. When we return, the stage will be complete. We're back and our stage is now complete. I'm just going to fine-tune a bit to create some opportunities for our player to jump. I'm just going to delete a couple of these platforms here, maybe some here. We don't need this one. I'm also going to change some of the frames for these platforms. So while holding shift, click on these, change the initial frame to 1. I'm going to change the initial frame for these to 2. Okay, so that added a lot of variety already. Alright, now we're ready to make our player. So double click on the layout, double click on sprite, and click anywhere. Under fill, we're just going to color this yellow so that our player stands out from the background. We're going to set the origin to the bottom and center, and then set the speed to 0. Okay, I'm just going to name this sprite player and set the size to 50 by 50 pixels. Next, we're going to give our player sprite a few behaviors, and behaviors are just predefined code that Construct 2 has built in, allowing different game objects to interact with the world and the player. Okay, so just going to click on the player sprite, go to behaviors under the properties panel, and then go to add new. We're going to add the platform behavior, and we're also going to add the scroll to behavior, which allows the camera to follow our sprite. Okay, I'm just going to save this, and if we preview it now, the player sprite will actually just fall down and past these platforms. That's because we don't have the platform set to solid behavior. So if I play, that's exactly what happens. We're just going to go to platform grass under our objects panel, go to behaviors plus solid. I'm going to save this again, and if we play now, you can see that our player falls on our platforms, and we can move and jump, and the camera follows our player. So in about 7 to 10 minutes, we've already set up the fundamentals for our platform game. We're ready to add some scenery to this game. To save some time, I'll just do a couple of trees with you guys, pause the video, and when we return, the stage will look a lot nicer. To start off, I'm just going to add a new layer, rename it foreground, and I'm going to move this behind the platform layer. Double click on the layout, sprite, click anywhere, and this time we're going to open objects 1. I'm going to duplicate this frame, and for frame 0 I'm just going to get rid of everything that is not a tree, and I'm going to duplicate frame 0 twice. And just the same thing, hold shift, crop, and get rid of whatever you need to. Okay, hold shift and crop again. Set the origin to the center and towards the bottom. That looks good. Right click, apply the whole animation. Because our player won't be interacting with these trees, we don't have to worry about the collision. And then make sure that the animation speed is set to 0. Let me just show you guys really quick actually what happens when it's set to 5, the default. So if I play this, see it just goes through it. So we're going to set it to 0, and if I play this now, it stays. Okay, so we're going to save this. Just going to position it over here. We're going to duplicate it once by holding Control, Shift, and dragging out, changing the frame to 2. And I'm going to pause the video here, and when I return, this is going to look much better. We're back, and as you can see, we've added several new trees, rocks, and a fence to our scene. As a tip, if you want to add more variety to your scene, you can click on a sprite and add a negative value to either the width or the height of the sprite. For example, adding a negative to the 72 flips this sprite horizontally. We're also going to rename this to just do objects for now, and we're good to go. Next up, I'm going to add a couple of floating platforms. So double click on our layout, double click on sprite, click anywhere, and this time we're going to open up platforms part 3. I'm going to get rid of everything but this grassy platform here. Just click on this crop icon, and we're going to change this to the bottom center. And this time collision does matter, so we're going to right click, set to bounding box. I'm going to zoom in, and again, to zoom in you just want to hold Control and Alt and then scroll your mouse wheel. Okay, and let's move this down a couple of pixels. That's perfect. We'll rename this floating underscore platform. And we're just going to give it a new behavior. This time it's going to be sign. And the default values work for what we're trying to accomplish. I'm just going to reposition this. Hold Control, Shift, and duplicate this. Okay? And we're just going to move the player sprite more to the left. I'm just going to move these floating platform sprites up a bit. And then I'm going to go back to behaviors. And usually when you play a platform game, the player should be able to jump from below to the top of these objects. So we're going to give these a jump through behavior. So now we have to consider what happens if the player falls below the map. So in our event sheet, we're going to go to Add Event, System. Under General, you want to go to Every Tick. Then you want to right click, add another condition. Go to Player, scroll down to compare Y. You want to do greater or equal than 500. So every tick, if the player's Y position is greater than 500, I'm going to add action, player, set position. The X is going to be whatever the player's X position is, so we're just going to go to player here, and then scroll down to player X, so player.x. The Y is going to be 0. Alright, now we're going to do a quick test of our game. So if we jump from below, we land on top of these floating platforms, and if we fall, we get repositioned. But we're now ready to add a couple of finishing touches for this video tutorial. First of all, the background, I'm going to change the parallax of the X to 50, and this is just going to give our game a bit of depth. The background is going to scroll at a different rate compared to our foreground. So if I play this now, you'll see what I mean right here. Okay, we're also going to add some music to our project. So under the projects panel, we're going to go to the music folder, right click, import music, and Construct 2 comes with several files. Just going to click on this OGG file, go to 192 and import. Hit OK, and then go to our event sheet, add event, system. We're going to scroll down on start of layout, add action. You can see we don't have any audio objects here, so what we have to do is go back to our layout, double click, and add audio under media. Once the audio object has been added, go back to event sheet 1, add action, audio, then play. Choose your file, set the loop to looping, set the volume to -20, just because I'm making a video tutorial right now. And then tag, we'll name this BG1, and tags are just so if you want to add effects you can refer to these. Okay, done, save, and let's play our game now. That concludes this video tutorial hosted by CheapVectorStock.com. In future video tutorials, we will introduce new game mechanics to this project, so please do stay tuned. To show your support for Cheap Vector Stock, please remember to share this video with friends and family, like this video on our YouTube page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.